I'm the Director of Communities at YesScotland, and I'm here to give you a brief introduction into YesScotland, a bit of background into our campaign, and also, more importantly, how we can get more active in Edinburgh and take that message of independence through to the people of Edinburgh. So there will be plenty of time for discussion, for points to come from yourselves. This isn't about me talking to you, it's also about myself and others from YesScotland learning from the people in Edinburgh what you need to help you deliver a good campaign in Edinburgh. So there will be points for you later tonight once you've heard from me. This is where you check that the technology works after I've set it up. Oh, very good. Right, what is YesScotland? We are the cross-party and no-party campaign for an independent Scotland. We have one aim and one policy only, and that is delivering a yes vote in 2014. It's as simple as that. Nice simple challenge for 2 years, but it's certainly deliverable from our point of view. You know, I did worry about this from a distance. Okay. We're going to work in a very, very positive way. The YesScotland campaign is all about positive campaign messaging, and it's going to be done in a very, very constructive support. So we're going to raise the bar of the normal party politics that you see from all the political parties. We're not going to get into the negative campaigning that you'll see on the no side. This is a very, very positive campaign. It is all about collaboration and inclusiveness in this campaign. There will be people in this room, and I recognise faces from different political parties, and I've already spoken to some people tonight that have no political background at all. That is exactly what the Yes campaign is all about. It's an equal relationship amongst everybody who supports independence. It's community-led and it's grassroots. It is not about us in the centre, it's about people like yourselves, and we're simply here to support that. So who are we? We have an advisory board that looks after our work. It's chaired by Dennis Canavan, who really needs no introduction. And we also have our Chief Executive, Blair Jenkins, on the advisory board as well. There are other people on the advisory board from different sections of society, including politics, but definitely not dictated to or have a majority of politicians on the board. We're actually joined by one of our advisory panel here tonight. If we could find Colin. Colin, are you here somewhere? Yeah. So we've got a member of the advisory panel who's also here tonight, Colin Fox. So thank you very much. Senior staff that we also have in place, as I mentioned, the Chief Executive, Blair Jenkins, a number of people in different departments. The key and the reason that we've got this on here is that they and I am here to serve the people that are trying to deliver that campaign. It is not a campaign that's going to be won in our head office. It's going to be won, if we can get to it. Stan, I think you might need to press the buttons in the corner, and I'm going to give up on my remote. We're going to go for the old-fashioned method, which is known as the Deputy Director of Communities, Stan Blackley, who's going to work in the corner and tell you that the winning success of the campaign is not the staff, it's you and in the audience. So this is entirely grassroots. We set this up and it was launched in May as the largest grassroots campaign that Scotland will ever see. It has to become that to become effective. So why are we going to be successful in 2014? You will see a lot of polling evidence over the next years that will show you that we're all doomed, that it's not, the message isn't getting out. There is vast potential for us to turn this into a yes vote, and that potential is out there if we can speak to enough people. This figure that you normally hear bandied about is if you ask a straight question to people, do you think that Scotland should be an independent state? They say about 32% will come back and give an immediate yes to that. If you phrase that in a different way and think that all the decisions that affect Scotland should be made in Scotland, that rises to 43% of the population. If you then manage to persuade people that they will be £500, not 5,000, but £500 better off a year, 65% of the Scottish population would vote for an independent Scotland. It's those 65% that we need to get out there, communicate to, talk to and persuade. So don't listen to where the polls are, listen to how open people are to the message about independence. The potential is there, it's our responsibility as a campaign to turn that potential into a reality. people are much, much more open to the idea of independence than ever before. For those of you who have campaigned in whatever guise over the years, there have been many times where people haven't been interested in talking about independence, but now that the independence referendum is going to happen, they are genuinely interested, many of them, in hearing more about it. But they'll want to know some aspects to how independence will affect them before they actually get over that interested to definitely voting yes. So we need to address those points in turn. So what's the point in general? Why vote for independence? What's in it for me, my family, my community? And then what about the detail? And you'll have had that, for whether it's when you're campaigning or just through friends and family. People have got questions about independence and what it means to them. So what's the point? It comes down to one, what we call a fundamental truth, that Scotland should be independent because it's fundamentally better for all of us. Decisions are taken by the people of Scotland because we care most about our country, and that's the thing that we've got to remember in everything we do. That's the vision that's behind Yes Scotland, and it's the vision behind independence. That is almost impossible for people to argue against. Do you think that Scotland should make its own decisions, yes or no? If you build that into a visionary way, then we can do that. And that's because people do believe that we can do the best job of making Scotland a success, and that the people that live in Scotland have got the greatest stake in Scotland's future. So what could they potentially be pushed by? Well, there's a number of things going on that might push them towards independence. So we've got welfare reforms, we've got the austerity cuts coming through. There's this idea out there now that if you vote no, you'll get nothing. There's a lot of people in the no campaign from the different strands of it that will try and persuade you that if you vote no, you'll get something at some indeterminate point in the future. That's not enough for people. There's a great deal of scepticism about politicians delivering on a promise, particularly when they've not even actually managed to flesh out what that promise will mean. And there's a great worry amongst people that there will be just more of the same after the vote if we don't vote for independence. But there's many, many positive reasons why people vote for it as well, and this is the reasons, the messages that we need to try and get across. It's about a different approach to welfare, it's about the chance to get rid of nuclear weapons, prospect for better change, and the fact that we can just simply take control over our own affairs. Now there is a lot of detail, and you will have had that, as I say, through many conversations that we have. We can go through the next 2 years answering everybody's single specific question, but the research shows that that won't get us to change people's mind, because after you deal with one question, they'll have another question, they'll have another question, they'll have another question. So what we have to build in that is answers to the question, but also what's in it for them and why Scotland needs to be independent. So when you're answering people's questions, you have to think about developing it into a vision that will actually persuade them in a better way than just dealing with some of their very, very particular issues. Some of the issues that are coming up is, can we afford it? Will we be secure? How will we get there? What will we look like? Now, there are many ways that we can get that message across to you, and I'm going to come on to explain how activism will help with that. But I'll give you one example of what we've done within the past couple of days to help people get those questions answered. On the Yes Scotland website, we now have a briefing that's available to everybody on the question about the EU and Scottish membership within the EU. That's available for download now for people to use. There's also a section on the Yes Scotland website that's specifically for voters' questions, where they can actually ask Yes Scotland a question and we will get back to them with a specific answer on their issue. So if people have got questions, whether it's people in the audience, yourselves, or people that you're speaking to, you can plug that into the Yes Scotland website and we will get back to them with a detailed answer about how we can deal with that. So see Yes Scotland website as a resource that we can use to facilitate that discussion and answer people's questions. But on top of all that, on top of using the website, it comes down to how we develop and build a grassroots campaign. So there's a number of ways that we can do that and that you can get involved in after tonight. There's the local group, and this officially marks the launch of Yes Edinburgh. There's our ambassador programme, and there's also some different interesting discussion groups. So we're going to try and make this campaign as local as possible. As I've said a couple of times before, this will not be one in our headquarters, it will be one in the communities. So there will be a Yes Edinburgh now established. From tonight there will be one campaign per local authority area. The key to that though is Yes Edinburgh pretty much after tonight, unless you decide that you want to meet again as Yes Edinburgh, You will go out into different communities, we'll break that up and get this absolutely centralised on genuine communities within Edinburgh so that we can work in a neighbourhood fashion. So Yes Edinburgh is here. It's here and can be supported by the staff within headquarters. It'll be supported by myself and Stan and other members of our team. You've also got a marketing background, communications background, a digital team, a messaging team, all there to support people that are delivering the campaigns. So what would we expect to happen in any local group? The most important thing is it is not party political. It is not an adjunct to any of the party politics that happen in this city. It has to be cross-party, it has to be new, and it has to welcome people from cross-party and no-party activities. So everybody has to be welcome to participate. In the local group like this, you can find this a very useful platform on a citywide basis to look about information sharing, collaborative working, and also how to coordinate things on a citywide level and deliver some of the larger campaigns. It is not a party political branch. I do not have a constitution or standing orders in my pocket, and I intend not to have one for the next 2 years. If you're looking for a constitution and standing orders, you're in the wrong room, because we're here to deliver independence and not a great hierarchy, so we're not interested in that. There is going to be no executive and no committees and no hierarchies. If you want to do something, as long as it fits within the positive and collaborative method of YesScotland, then go do it. Don't wait for anyone else to tell you what to do. Don't wait for anyone else to come up with a good idea. If you have a good idea, get in touch with YesScotland and we will facilitate it. You will not be told what to do by myself or anybody else. This is an entirely open and flexible campaign. I have not came with a blueprint for a campaign in Edinburgh in my handbag, and I'm not going to suggest that we deliver one. What we do have is people within communities and within YesScotland that will help people in Edinburgh deliver the campaign that they want. So we'll get together with different volunteers, we'll have different ideas, and we'll make it work for your community. So we're here to provide support, advice, we will give suggestions if suggestions aren't forthcoming, but this is not about the centre telling anybody what to do. For all that to work though, there does need to be some degree of coordination and ways of working. You know, there needs to be some sort of organisation. It will be very flexible, as I say, there's no committee structure to this. But we are looking for lead volunteers to come forward tonight. We're suggesting for 1 or more per ward, so we could start getting people who will look at the different areas of Edinburgh and what they want to do in their different areas. Now, there may be one person that wants to do that from a separate area, there may be 5. Quite frankly, the more the merrier. So if people are interested in becoming lead volunteers for the areas, then do please either see myself or Stan at the end of the meeting, and we can get that moving forward. So we're looking for people to come forward to work in a collaborative way that will actually help us deliver that campaign in your communities. Now, the next thing we need to think about is the Ambassadors Programme. For those that haven't heard about the Ambassadors Programme before, it's about taking the message about independence in an entirely different way. So this isn't your traditional political campaigning, it's not about canvassing or street stalls. That will remain critical and important to the campaign, but this isn't what this is about. It can be anybody that's part of the Yes campaign, it's anyone that's active in their local community and involved in local networks. We'll provide the support and resources. All that we ask of you is that you talk about independence, not in a political way, but just within the networks that you already have. So if you're a member of, if you go to mother and toddler groups a lot, if you go to a pensioners club a lot, if you hear things that are happening and you hear a lot of misinformation about independence, that somebody's read something in the Daily Mail that says we can never afford it, well, we'll be the ones that provide you with that information on a daily basis. A rebuttal line, some tasks that you can take forward where you can actually be the well-informed person that says, well, actually, no. What it's actually shown is that Scotland can afford it because we pay our own way in the UK, and these are the reasons why. So we're looking for people who are interested in talking about independence. I'm not suggesting you bore your friends and family and talk about nothing else for the next 2 years, but these are, like, you know, if there's people in the audience that would want to take a conversation forward with people who will provide you with the missions, the challenges to do that, and we'll provide you with the information for that. So there will be sheets going round that can suggest how you can get involved in that. You don't have to have been politically active before to be able to be a good ambassador. You just need to want to talk about independence. Interesting discussion groups. We're involved in the local group by coming together tonight, and we'll break down into other groups within Edinburgh as well, but there's a number of other sections that are active within YesScotland that we're building up. So women, business, LGBT, trade unionists, student and youth, you name it, we're having a group for it, and if it's not up there it's because people haven't came forward with it yet, and we will look at that. So we are very, very keen to get people in these and other areas that can then take the message out. So for example, the women's group are looking at how they can take the message out to women who might not necessarily think that independence is a good idea, might not get involved in party political meetings, but they are interested in a better future for their children. So how do we get that into sectors that the women would be interested? We've got people from other meetings that are going to get involved in the Women's Institute. We've got other people that are going to take something along to business groups. You know, so anybody that has an interest in that and who are keen to spread the message within those sectors, again, you can sign up to get involved in that as well as locally. So what can you do now? Well, we can get involved as a local group and we can kick off what happens. You can become active locally, and we can discuss at the end what that will actually mean. You can sign one other person up to the Yes Declaration. And our challenge, I suppose one of the first challenges that I could give you tonight is, over the next couple of weeks, can you sign up one more person in Edinburgh to support independence that hasn't signed up to the Declaration before? We've got about 250 people in the room tonight. If everybody signed up one more person in the next month, we can just spread that message across. So it's an easy thing for people to do. We're asking for one more person. So could you actually do that? Could you sign up and become an ambassador to receive the support and training? Can you make a donation? YesScotland is entirely self-financing. We do not receive any financial contributions from any of the political parties or any other groups. So if there are individuals within the room tonight that can make a donation, then please think about doing that. We won't spend any money on this independence campaign until you raise it. So the main way that we can get active is by people actually raising money as well. We do have merchandise that you can have too, and that's available in our online shop. What we're also looking for tonight is specific volunteers to look at key areas, so local events. When we look at 2014, and particularly 2014, I want YesScotland to be absolutely everywhere. I don't want anyone to ever turn up at things and think, oh, it's a shame YesScotland weren't here because we could have had a really good audience where we signed people up. We need to plan for that now, and the people that can help us do that in the different areas are people in this very room and beyond. So again, from tonight, we're looking for volunteers that will take responsibility for their part of Edinburgh, that will say, we will tell you about everything that you think YesScotland should be at over the next 18 months. Also the local groups. Are there any local groups that we should be speaking into your areas where we can ask for an invite along? You know, we can develop that from our contacts, but the people that know the most about their areas are folk like yourselves. So again, if there's an area group that's meeting in your community that you think we should be speaking at or we should be getting involved at, you need to let us know that information so that we can bring that back. And also, are there any key local influencers that we can convince about independence, or are indeed already convinced about independence, that we can get them involved in the Yes campaign? So do you know of somebody that's, you know, they might not make the national headlines, but within your local community they're of extreme good standing that people will be able to think, oh right, they support independence, I didn't know that. So with the greatest respect to councillors, MSPs, whoever in the area, you know, people know you support independence. If you're an activist in a political party, people know you support independence as well. But pulling somebody out of the hat that people didn't know supported independence can make a genuine difference. So it's what we're looking for is people like me support independence. So if you know of somebody like that in your local area, then we need to know about that too. And also, is there any local activity planned already that people can get involved in? One of the things that we need to be in YesScotland is a conduit to all of the information that might be happening in the disparate parts of Edinburgh where people could come together. So people might have already planned for different things to be happening in different parts of the cities. Luckily I know about one already, so I'm going to get that part over with before I forget and ask Tony to tell you about something that's happening on Saturday. Would you do that just now?
Yeah, sure. On Saturday we'll be kicking off our regular street stalls on Princess Street. I think it's good that we keep the visibility going, and in addition to all the other events that will be happening in Edinburgh, we'll be organising, as I say, regular street stalls on a Saturday morning. We're kicking off at 10:30 opposite the Mound on Saturday. It'd be great to have a good turnout, especially for our first street stall on Saturday, but keep an eye on the Yes website, as Shirley-Ann was saying, for updates on that. But as I say, it will be every week until further notice. So keep an eye on that, and also keep an eye on the regular general other activities organised for the City of Edinburgh.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else? Sorry?
10:30
Till when?
Well, 10:30 till usually for a couple of hours, so probably 10:30 to 12:30.
Okay. So let's get started with that at the weekend. If people have other campaigning ideas that they want to take forward, simply, that one's on the YesScotland website that we noticed before we came out, but if people have anything else planned that they already have in the pipeline that they're talking about, or if there's other things that they want to get involved in, then let us know, get it on the YesScotland website, and we can then tell everybody that signed up to the declaration in Edinburgh to make sure we get a great cross-party turnout. So in the coming months, what else can you do? As well as signing up one person, talk to people. Again, you don't have to bore them with it, but just talk to them about why you support independence. We need to make this very, very personal and not political. So, you know, I support independence because I believed when I got active in politics that my community that I grew up in Fife deserved better than what it was getting under the government at Westminster at that time. That belief that I had when I was 16 hasn't changed at all, and that's still the reason why I think that Scotland should be independent, is because I don't think we're achieving our full potential as a country. Can people actually manage to do that? Because it's quite a hard challenge sometimes about serving up why you support independence in a couple of sentences to start that conversation off, to get people thinking in a different way. If you're interested in campaigning online, please do so as well. There's support within our digital team to be able to help you to do that. Get involved in an interest group or a discussion group, or join some of the events. As I said earlier, YesScotland is entirely self-financing. So if someone in Edinburgh wants to organise an enormously large and successful fundraiser, we would be more than happy to help you with that. So if somebody has an idea that can take that forward, again, please do get in touch. Now, we have participation sheets that are somewhere in the room tonight that will be making their way around. I don't know who has them at the moment. Ian Dommett, our Director of Marketing over there, will make sure that those are distributed. You can then get involved and tick the boxes in that, whether you want to be an ambassador, whether you're interested in any of the discussion groups, or want to get involved locally. If you sign up to donate tonight, we also will give you a very, very attractive and highly sought after limited edition YesScotland t-shirt as a limited offer for one night only, and Ian has them in the corner as well. So if you are wanting to put your name on the dotted line tonight and sign up for the donation, you can walk away and impress your friends with a very, very attractive YesScotland t-shirt for the weekend too. Now, over to yourselves. I've given you a brief example, hopefully, of the types of things that YesScotland can do, the types of things that you can do. But as I said, we're keen to hear about what you want to do in Edinburgh, how you think it will work. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get the roving mics that we were promised for tonight, so people will have to holler, because I'm the only one with the mic. But if people do have any either questions about YesScotland, or points about how they would want it to work, what they want from the YesScotland headquarters team, then now's your opportunity to have that say. So has anyone got any questions, and we'll just open it up. Yeah.
If we're doing canvassing, what system do we use for entering our supporters or whatever?
It's a question about canvassing. Canvassing is going to be exceptionally important, so is voter ID. There will be a YesScotland database where you can use that, so it's open to anyone of any political party where we can share that information, and it will simply be based around YesScotland questions on independence. So I know that all the political parties have their own ways of canvassing and logging that information, but there will be a separate YesScotland method of doing that, which will be launched in the new year, so you'll be allowed to canvass in an effective way at a local level to be able to get access to that information that you need to pull off your canvass sheets, your detailed sheets. Now that's being done in conjunction with all the political parties to make sure that that works effectively across the board. So it won't be a standalone system, it will work, and we'll make sure it works for all the parties. Telephone canvassing as well, as part of that package, yeah.
Sure, yeah, we're in the early stages of organising an event for the business community in Leith Wall. I just wondered, is there a way that we can find out that we're not reinventing the wheel where's the best place to get some guidance on best practice, learn from what others have already done?
If you're thinking about setting up any sectoral meeting, and this is a really good example of what could be done at a community level, is, you know, if Leith are looking at doing it at businesses, but you could do it for any sector of the population, any demographic in whatever area, we can provide support in terms of how would you want that meeting set up. Do you want it as a discussion forum or a public meeting? There's a great benefit from having a meeting that's more a listening exercise rather than everyone standing behind a platform and telling people, why independence is a really good idea. You know, we've got 18 months to do this, we don't need to do it in a very heavy-handed way at the start. So we can certainly help with that at headquarters, and if anybody's got any, you know, ideas to pick that up, then please do get in touch with us and we'll be able to help out with that, with both best practice and what's worked, and then share your experiences with others that are doing it.
Can I just add something there? I'm on the board of something called Business for Scotland, which has designed itself as an apolitical think tank, designed to give information that sort of business people, chief execs, business owners and so on would like to see. At the moment, what we've been doing is taking the approach exactly that Shirley says in terms of gathering data, what are people's concerns, and at the moment we've just taken an office in Glasgow and it's been largely confined to a LinkedIn group called Business for Scotland. So, but we do plan to do more, and again we've just been kind of assembling. So I'll chat to you then. I'll come to your meeting.
For the folks that are standing, there are more seats over this corner. I don't mind if people shuffle along to get a seat, because I know it's going to be a while yet, so don't mind us. Carry on.
Actually, I just wondered, with Gaelic education being so important in Edinburgh with the new school, are there any plans to produce any, or are the existing campaign materials in Gaelic? Because that would be super to be able to have that on board as well for distribution, particularly more shop people.
We're not just thinking about producing something in Gaelic, although that is getting looked at, and if people have a specific need for something at the moment until we provide the whole suite, then, you know, people can let us know. But we're looking at providing it in a vast variety of community languages. So we're looking at Polish, Urdu, anything that you can think of. If there's a community within your area that needs things translated into a particular language, then we'll look at that and we'll provide all that. So if people have the demand for that, then we will provide the translations on request for it. So yes, we will look to, in general, developing some of the websites into Gaelic, for example, but also if other people have just a more general need about things, then we'll be able to provide translations for any community language that you're looking for. Gentleman at the back.
Among the specific interest groups you're doing packages for, is there one being prepared for serving members of the armed forces?
We're not looking at serving members of the armed forces because there's difficult with how open that they can be in a part political way, but we are looking at veterans. And we had a discussion with a couple of people a few weeks ago at a conference we were at that were particularly interested in that. So we are looking at setting up veterans for independence. Yes.
Yes. My thought for asking a question, which I'd like to, that I found great difficulty answering, and I'd like to ask you, what are your 3 key selling points?
And YesScotland or for independence?
For YesScotland, what are your 3 key selling points?
Okay. The YesScotland campaign is a collaboration of cross-party and no-party. No one political party will win independence in 2014. If we don't work together, if we work in a way which is broken down by interest groups, political parties, we will lose. So the key selling point for YesScotland is, it is the only way that we can work together to achieve independence. For these 2 years we're putting party politics aside and just getting on with it. After that we can all go back in our merry way and go back to our political parties. But until we achieve that, that is the absolute unique selling point of YesScotland. So I'll not give you 3, I'll give you that one, because that is what we are all about. So, you know, we will provide you with professional staff who will be able to advise and guide you at community level in a way that is cross-party and unbiased.
Shirley Ann, can you give us any thoughts on how we can get started at a local community level? Because you mentioned working at a ward level, but the problem with the wards in Edinburgh, as you know, is that they're big, sprawling areas with 5 or 6 or 7 discrete communities in them. Where I'm living now in Marchman, the community is it's very clear what that community is, but it's split between 2 wards. And I'm just wondering if the campaign has any thoughts on how we get local groups going.
I mean, it is one of the challenges. I mean, we sat down to actually work out over the summer what Yes Scotland was going to look like and how the campaign was going to set up. There was a myriad of suggestions about how we could do that, whether it would be parliamentary level, community level, ward level. It has adapted to suit depending on the area of the country that we're in. So Highland looks very, very different to what we're suggesting tonight. So this is not set in stone. If people think it needs to be done in a different way, then it can be done in a different way. My only plea to that would be we could go round the houses trying to work out the perfect way to split up Edinburgh into genuine communities, and we've lost 6 months of the campaign. If your community spreads over 2 wards, talk to each other and just get stuff sorted. You know, I know that's a bit simplistic, but you know, we could work on a fantastic structure for too long and lose opportunities. Now, if there are particular difficulties in some areas where it's not working, absolutely, if it can't be worked out at a local level, then we'll look at it centrally to try and give advice and guidance on how to arbitrate on that. So, but you know, we sat and worked out different ways of splitting up Edinburgh. We could have presented 5 different ways, but this is our suggestion tonight, and unless there's a great feeling from the audience to do something entirely different, we would hold to that and just try and do what you can to speak to each other.
I'd just like to say that I think that a big part of this campaign is going to take place online, and it's already been taking place online. And I wondered if the Yes campaign has thought about producing some kind of guideline or advice for online campaigning, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, that sort of thing, even campaign and etiquette, that type of thing.
Yeah, the campaign etiquette has been done for online campaigning, and we're looking at doing that for offline campaigning. So if you give either myself or Ian or Stan your details at the end, we'll be able to send you out a link to where that online campaigning etiquette is. But put simply, it's some of the stuff that I was talking to before. It's positive. It is not attacking individuals or political parties, and it's absolutely no racism, no xenophobia, no homophobia, no nothing. Any obias, we're all interested in it. Keep it as simple as that. We're fine. That's really what it boils down to, is positive and not attacking individuals. But that is available online, and we're looking to do the same for offline campaigning, because you know, we're a dispersed organisation. There will be things that might happen over the next 2 years that wouldn't be how somebody in headquarters might want it to be. We're quite relaxed about that, as long as it's done in a positive manner that doesn't attack individuals. Somebody who hasn't asked the question already, if there's anybody, I'm keen to make sure. Yes, lady at the back.
Do you know what the Better Together campaign strategy is in terms of setting up local groups and things?
No, I think they don't have a strategy, because I'm not sure about yourself, but the idea of Better Together being able to get 250 people in a room on November night in Edinburgh is remote, and I think that's the feeling that we've got as we've went through the country to do a variety of these. Is the turnout to the Yes campaign meetings has been massive, and the community feel to it is massive. The No campaign is based around negativity, it's based around attack, and there doesn't really seem to be much behind it than that. They are relying on the political parties working separately. I think that's to. I can see why they have to do that, because there's no way that they would be able to work together. But we have to work together to win this, and we know that. And I hope the political parties realise that as well. And certainly the ones that we're involved in on our advisory board certainly do. So I just don't. I think this is inconceivable for them to even bother trying. Would be my answer to that.
With respect to it, however, I do feel there is no space for any complacency in that respect. Because we just never know what Better Together may get up to. And I feel that for us to have representatives ready to attend their meetings, to make sure that we can counter any issues that they should raise, but primarily to make sure that the truth is kept paramount, I feel is quite essential what we hope to achieve.
I think it depends on what type of meetings they are. Better Together, can we actually maybe establish one thing to start with? We don't talk about the Better Together campaign, they're the No campaign. That's what they are. We're not Better Together, they're the No campaign. So, the No campaign. campaign work to organise a no meeting where they speak to no volunteers. Let them have it. If there's any no campaigners who have came along tonight, because we were quite open about this meeting, I hope you're having a lovely time meeting all the Yes volunteers in Edinburgh and you're wasting your evening, because there's no state secrets here, it's people getting out and getting active. Don't waste your time going to it, just go out and speak to non-convinced voters. If they're holding a public meeting, where there's members of the public there, then yes, there's obviously then a reason for us to go along and you know, say our bit from the audience. But if the no campaign want to run their negative campaign, let them do it. We're not going to dance to their agenda. We've set our own agenda. It's a positive one. The messages will come from Yes, and that's the way we're going to win. So it's not about being complacent. We are utterly not complacent about what they'll do, and we have no doubt that they will pull every dirty trick under the book over the next 2 years. You know, to try and win this. And we're already seeing that in the traditional media. I think the key for us is not to get deflected from that. We have a strong message, a positive message, and we just go on and do it. And that's as simple as that.
It's a well-known fact that young people are quite positive about independence. Is there any plans to help coordinate presentations to 16 and 17-year-olds in schools so that we get a message to them?
It is a very, very important campaign. We've got the youth and students as a group within, and that's already a very active group that's been involved in freshers' fairs in colleges and universities across Scotland, including Edinburgh. When it comes to 16 and 17-year-olds within school, that's obviously a very, very delicate campaigning issue. And a lot of that will have to be done in conjunction with the no campaign to make sure that there's information from both sides here. I mean, that has to be done through the EIS, through the Electoral Commission, to make sure that we're doing that in a fair manner. It then comes down to the weight of our argument. I think we've got an exceptionally strong one to 16 and 17-year-olds, because the concept of telling a 16 and 17-year-old that they should stay maybe perhaps with their parents for the rest of their lives because they're too wee or poor stupid to ever become independent is a strange one for them. So I think we've got an automatic argument that it worked successfully for 16 and 17-year-olds simply because of that life stage that they're at the moment. So we are looking at it. We will make sure that there are school packs to deal with mock elections and everything to do with that will fit into it. But it's a very, very delicate thing that we will do, and a lot of that will be done in conjunction with the Electoral Commission to make sure it's fair and square. That doesn't mean that we don't get out in our communities and speak to 16 and 17-year-olds that are involved in community groups. That's an entirely different issue, and something which if we do, again, professionally, then we can do that in a different way. So it is absolutely being looked at, and we were very pleased the Scottish Government suggested in reducing the voting age to allow them to take part in the referendum.
On that subject, I met with the chair of the Edinburgh Head Teachers Association today with a view to getting the protocols in place for councillors to get into high schools to start the hustings, as it were. Messages that the young kids can't wait for the debate.
Well, that's true. We just need to make sure that as a volunteer in Edinburgh that you have the information that you need to provide the best thing when we get to that husting. So, you know, if people have got issues like that coming up, and it's not just within the schools. I mean, we spoke to a number of people when we were doing the inaugural meetings that are already asked to be doing hustings and presentations to different groups. So if you need support in terms of policy work and in terms of the top 10 things to say at hustings, again, please get in touch with us and we can adapt that. So whether it's 16 and 17-year-olds or anything else, if you're going to talk about independence, we will help you do that in a way that fits in with our overall messages.
Yes, I want to take you from Edinburgh across the Atlantic, because I have just having lived there for many, many 50 years and being an SNP member. Today I read some absolutely shocking words coming out of the United States about the independence campaign because of, obviously, the nuclear thing. And I had hoped, and maybe something can help with this, because I have connections there because I lived there and worked there, to get something perhaps to set up so that some of, in a very personal way, perhaps writing to the People's War magazine, you know, to try and, in a very tiny way, counteract some of this. I might talk to somebody about setting up kind of something law about diaspora, something like that.
If you make sure that you put that into the participation sheet when it comes through, because our Director of Communities, Susan Stewart, was what was known globally as Scotland's first ambassador, when she went over to the United States to set up a Scotland office there. So she's got diaspora within her job remit, and she's very, very keen to work on that. So if there are other people who have got in contact on the website and want to set up overseas Scots, so we can look at doing that. So make sure your details are fed in at the end of the night, and that's starting to take shape. The more volunteers we have to take that forward, the better.
Just on that point, the story I wanted to roll into fundraising.
For a start, for the declaration signatures, if you're not registered on the electoral register in Scotland, you don't count as one of the million declaration signatures that we're signing. I know we're a self-financing campaign that is relying on donations from Scotland. So they can make very small donations to the campaign, but they can't in any large way. Nobody out with Scotland can make large donations. Now that's something which the Yes campaign is doing, it's not something which the No campaign is doing, and you'll find a lot of their funding will come from south of the border, so it'll be funded by people who aren't actually voting in the referendum. That's one of the challenges that we're putting forward, is our fundraising will be based in Scotland, theirs will not.
Hi, I represent one of the groups that you highlighted earlier there, the Trade Unionists for Independence. So there's a couple of things that we just like to bring to the notice of the meeting. The first is that the Edinburgh TUC have called a meeting on Tuesday the 20th of November to discuss the topic. That's on the back of the STUC consultation exercise. So I would encourage anybody that's a trade unionist to get along to that meeting, so as we have our say at these meetings. Now, I just had a quick squint at the email before I came out, so I'm not sure of the time and the venue for that. However, you will get it on our Facebook page when I get home tonight and post it up. That's the second point I want to make, that we have a Facebook page. Just type in Trade Unionists for Scottish Independence, it will take you there. And the reason for our being was to take the arguments and the debate to the workplaces throughout Scotland. Whilst we would love to convince all the unions, in particular the major unions, of the benefits of independence, realistically, that's not going to happen. However, we can reach the ordinary members within the workplaces. So we have also got model resolutions that we're encouraging our members to meet at their branch meetings to get the discussions going. Undoubtedly, in some unions, you're going to face opposition to those. But if we can get the debate here, then we can win the fight. I am absolutely confident throughout the workplaces of Scotland. So we'd urge you all, get onto Facebook, type in Trade Unionists for Scottish Independence, join us in that and get yourselves along to this debate on the 20th of November.
Thank you very much. As Derek says, he's behind one of the groups that we've got there. The other way to do it is there's a box in the participation sheets which you'll have at the end that has trade unions in it. So if you tick that box to say you're interested in trade unions, we'll also make sure that you get the details of the Facebook page and anything else that's coming out from that as well. So either go onto Facebook or tick that bit at the end, or preferably both, to make sure we capture you, and you'll get put in touch with all the information from Derek and from other people that are involved in the trade unions. And that's just one example of the different groups that we've got across the spectrum. Gentleman over there.
Glasgow held recently about Treasury civil servants being organised to provide support for the No campaign. Plans of YesScotland got to organise FOI questions, parliamentary questions, shed a bit of light on what they're doing.
Anything that shows that there is an unlevel playing field needs to be brought to light. So that will be looked at. We've got a number of people that keep an eye on policy and on messaging to see if there's anything that we can do in that, and then we suggest whether it's FOIs or parliamentary questions on anything like that. I think that's one of the things which we're going to find a lot, and you're already finding through the House of Commons, through a variety of select committees that are looking at separation and what it will mean in different areas. I mean, that work is ongoing, and we should never underestimate what's happening in Westminster to have that very, very one-sided debate. So if there's anything that we can do to shed light on that and to show some of the inaccuracies that are coming out, we'll do that, but again in a way that doesn't deflect from our overall positive vision. But yes, anything like that will get looked at and examined to see if there's any light that can be shone on it, because I think people have a right to know about what's going on and where the information is coming from.
I just had a question about, do we know yet whether when the cut-off date is for people to be registered on the electoral register to vote in the referendum? I'm thinking specifically with a view to people like my 14-year-old nephew who would technically be eligible, but when would he have to be registered by? Is there any clarity there about the legality of registering?
We're waiting for the Scottish Government to show us more some details on that. So it's more a Scottish Government issue than a Yes issue. But if there's anything that Yes can do to get that information out to people, to make sure that people are registering, that they're knowing that's going on. So as soon as the Scottish Parliament takes a final decision on that and how that's going to happen, then we'll make sure that we get that message out. So not at the moment, but we need to get that out to people as soon as it is.
There's a thing when we're out campaigning to make sure that people are actually on the register. We just think about the way things work in America, people not actually on the register.
Absolutely, I wouldn't just say those that are you know, some of the younger members that might not be in the register. There are going to be an enormous number of people who have never voted before or who have got skinner to voting that will vote on this one. Referendum turnouts are usually much higher than your average election, so it's not just the young people that might not have been on the register before, it's the people that are not on the register that we need to get onto it as well. So it's much broader than that to actually inspire people to vote.
Yeah, my name's Hugh Kerr. I'm Vice Chair of the National Union of Journalists in Scotland, and I want to talk about the media. Now, we have an uphill task in Scotland in terms of arguing the Yes campaign. The media overwhelmingly is unionist. The BBC overwhelmingly is unionist. We discussed this at the NFA conference recently in Newcastle, and we passed a resolution on it, which we haven't taken a position on for or against independence. But what we've taken a position for is that there must be a full and balanced debate in all the media, and we're going to press this, and we've already had meetings with the BBC and with STV to ensure that this happens. Now, this is an ongoing battle, and I think everybody should take a positive attitude to it, as Shelley's theme is. Not abuse journalists necessarily all the time, or not abuse institutions like the BBC all the time. I know there was a campaign to say, after independence, you're all going to lose your jobs. Well, that's not the positive attitude we want. We want to say, we represent, at the moment, a third. We think maybe more than a half, eventually when the vote's taken. And we want to see those arguments represented in the media, on the BBC, on all the political programmes, and in the press, in the national press, and in the local press. And that means that you have to be much more participative, writing letters to the press, in bringing up Call K on 9 o'clock every morning, terrible prospect, but all of those things, and be positive, and be participative, and don't be abusive. And that's the question. The cyber nats have got a bad reputation in certain areas, maybe undeservedly, but we want to be seen to be positive and to be participative, and we should therefore have that positive attitude towards participation in the media, and I'm sure YesScotland will be doing that at the national level, and we can help at the grassroots level.
Thank you. I mean, this is a really important point. I mean, we all have our own views on the traditional media and how they portray independence, and perhaps, you know, the parties that some of you belong to. Again, that attacking never goes down well, and it achieves nothing in the end. It might, you know, help if you vent your frustration in Facebook or Twitter and everything. It won't actually change anything. So I am one of the people that automatically switches off Call K as soon as it comes on. I admit to that. But other people don't, and other people listen to it, and other people listen to discussion programmes and read the letter campaigns and everything. So yes, we do need our people to get involved in that and take your messages and take your themes off the YesScotland website. But if there are people that are interested in local letter writing or getting involved with some community newspapers or anything like that, then again, let us have your details at the end to help you construct that message in a positive way. So if you're interested in joining the letter writing group, if you're interested in receiving information to be able to help you with that positive message, then
can you translate the difference between 9.6% paid in taxation and 9.3% received from the Whitehall government into a sum per head? Because I was struck by that £500 per head the influence of that on people's poll voting intentions. I just don't know what that difference means per person in Scotland, because it could be quite significant.
Yeah, we're actually looking at developing campaign materials that specifically deals with that issue and puts it into a way that people will understand. So I'm not going to talk tonight too much about the figures that will come from that, because we're doing a lot of press work and media work to be able to support that. But the 9.3 and the 9.6%, which the gentleman mentioned, is vital. We give, I'll get this the right way, we give more to the Treasury than we receive back. So we give away 9.6%, but we get 9.3% back. So we net contribute to the UK economy. Now, how that translates in different ways, we want to break down depending on where you are in society. So rather than giving you one figure, we'll give you a figure that relates well to whether you're a pensioner, whether you're a young person, whether you're a parent, and so on. And that will come out in a more detailed fashion. So I'm not going to give that away tonight, because you'll see more of that in the new year. I'll leave it at that.
Would YesScotland be able to put us in touch with other YesScotland supporters in our local area? Because we're just thinking there's a big crowd here, and it would be helpful if we knew who was in our local area for supported events.
Yeah, we'll make sure all that information, and that's why we've gathered with everyone here tonight, because there's a lot of people that will hear about this in different ways, so we need to make sure we get back in contact with everybody. So until the database is launched in the new year, where you'll be able to pull off your own local material yourself, if you've got an event happening in the local area and you want to let other people know in the area that it's happening, if you contact YesScotland, we will tell everybody else. So the fact that the volunteers that are starting to organise the events on the Mound on Saturday put that on the website, that alerted the communities to the fact that it was happening, and we can then tell people about it. So that's the way that we're working at the moment. Once the database is launched, you'll be able to tell people in your local area as yourself, as well as trying to get people to come in from bigger events. But for the moment, we can facilitate that. Yes.
Couple of points. Is there a stall tonight selling the Yes bag, the car stickers, the badges, and so forth, and if not, wine?
There are yes t-shirts, yes badges, yes pens, and balloons. Yes. In the corner tonight, you don't even have to pay for the badges, but a donation is always welcome, but you get a badge for coming. But you can get that in the corner. There's other material online as well. But there are a selection of merchandise in the corner which people can take away.
Can I ask why you haven't mentioned YesOnAir.com, which is one of the most exciting developments on the internet?
Yes, on air.
Internet video.
Internet video.
For the Yes campaign.
Well, it's not being run by YesScotland. No, it's not.
On your website. That's why you mentioned.
Yes. We don't, any event that's on our website is not necessarily run by YesScotland. So any Yes volunteer, if you sign the declaration, you can put an event up on our website, broadcast it to everyone else, and we will tell people about it. We don't, this is a user-generated event that you see. This is a community-led campaign, so we don't put the material up there, but it's there to share with everybody else. So the fact that it's on our website does not mean it's a YesScotland campaign. The rally was on our website. It was a group of volunteers that sorted that out. There was an STUC march a couple of weeks ago that had the trade unionists at it, and others. We didn't put that up as well. So everything's generated by people, and we collate that information and give it out. So it's not necessarily a Yes event just because it's on our website. We just broadcast it.
My name's Tommy Shepherd, and I think, like a lot of people, you probably think this hasn't been the best couple of weeks for the campaign that we just had. So I'm extremely encouraged tonight to come here and see so many people coming out on a wet November evening, and I think our opponents could spend from now to 2014, and they'd be unlikely to get the same number of people in the same place at the same time. So I think, in one sense, this is a great start. What concerns me is that the level of interest and enthusiasm that's here tonight increases rather than decreases as the months go on. And therefore, I was just wanted to ask a few questions about the management of the campaign as to how you see it, because I've spent enough of my life sitting on committees not to ever want to go to another one. So I'm not suggesting that we have constitutions and elect office bearers at every level and all the rest of it. But I think you have to strike a balance between not having any structure at all and giving people ways in which they feel the campaign is theirs and they can be involved in it and that their opinions matter in terms of setting the priorities for the campaigning. I see no reason at all, for example, why local ward-based campaigns shouldn't be encouraged to link the campaign for a yes vote to particular social or economic problems right on their doorstep, because at the end of the day, independence is about taking the powers to make the changes that we can't do at the moment. So whilst it doesn't guarantee anything, it guarantees the possibility of almost anything you want. So in that sense, you can illustrate reasons to vote yes by talking about local issues. That means branches ought to be free, if we can call them branches, ought to be free to produce their own leaflets and organise their own activity and stuff like that, and perhaps even to raise some funds and use that in the locality as well. I also don't see anything wrong with, maybe this could be your ambassadors, each sort of ward-based organisation having an ambassador, so there's always someone there if the local paper or a local website or even a local tenants or residents organisation suddenly wants to speak to someone. So really I'd like to know more about, because you've mentioned, I'm sure you don't make it, several times now you've talked about how we will give you stuff. I mean, the whole point of this campaign is that in this one we are all in it together. You know, and we really do need to make sure that everyone feels that they own the campaign and can share it. So if you could give me some information about how you see that developing, particularly here in Edinburgh, that'd be good.
Totally, thank you. We will provide you with materials, suggestions, we'll give you blueprints for what's happening. So we're not coming, there is no blueprint that will work for the whole of Scotland. So the communities team within YesScotland will provide suggestions and encouragement and materials and financial support to Yes Edinburgh to do a variety of things. So it's speaking to every sector that's in Edinburgh, speaking to as many voters as possible and getting that message out as clearly as possible. There is absolutely nothing to stop people on a local level making their own leaflets. We'll provide you with letterheads, we'll provide you with the font so it looks like it's YesScotland rather than people trying to struggle with that themselves, and then people can do local initiatives. So if people want to do something in a local area because it's important to them, we'll absolutely support that. But there will be a discussion with the lead volunteers that come from tonight to think, right, well, how does this work for the whole of Edinburgh? And you know, YesScotland will oversee that to make sure that it's actually working effective in every area. So you've got a team based in headquarters that will ensure there's work going on the ground, suggestions coming from us. So it's not a diktat, it's not inflexible, but if nothing's happening, we will push things along in the right direction. We will make sure that the local strategies all fit with the national strategy. So your lead volunteers that you're going to get into, you're going to hopefully come from tonight's meeting, will produce that campaign plan, deliver that, but they'll do that in conjunction and in support with YesScotland staff. The local issues one, I would advise people just to think very carefully about that and to what it would mean. YesScotland has one policy and one policy only, and that's independence for Scotland. We don't get involved in any other of the issues, that's for the political parties. What we do talk about within Yes is people's visions for Scotland. So YesScotland does not have an opinion on any of the controversial things that are happening, but people that will contribute to leaflets, to adverts, to the website, talk about their vision for an independent Scotland. It was one of the great things that came out from the Falkirk meeting, which I went to on Monday night, where we had the Greens, the SNP, we had Dennis Canavan, and we had a writer along talking about their vision. All totally different, completely not on message if you were trying to make them collegiate, but an absolutely brilliant example of what an independent Scotland could be and how our visions are different but we can work together. So as long as the local issues you don't do in a way that suggests this is YesScotland policy that we support X, Y or Z or this will definitely happen under independence, then totally talk about your vision, talk about what independence means in a way that's much more conversational. You don't need to raise funds locally before you do any large events. So if there are big things that Edinburgh want to do but you don't have the funds available for it, if you can speak to Yes Scotland, essentially we will provide financial support. That doesn't stop people holding funds locally and doing local fundraising to do things in a local area, but it also doesn't mean that you have to raise all your money or we're not interested because you have to self-finance. We will come in and support local volunteers and local groups to do that work locally if they haven't raised the amount of money. So say you want to put on a massive big event for businesses in Edinburgh, but there's been no local Edinburgh fundraising. We're not going to turn out and say, well, wait 6 months to do that because you haven't raised any funds. If you come to us, then we will be able to provide that support if the case is made for it. If people want to fundraise locally and use that for local campaigns, again, we will support you in doing that and make sure we facilitate it. So we'll provide all the guidance structure that people need, but what we're not going to do is tell you what to do. I've worked with people in Edinburgh politics long enough to know that there are an exceptionally amount of bright people in this room with a lot of campaigning ideas. We're not short on ideas, we just need to collaborate to work together to make it effective, and that's what the lead volunteers come into, to make sure that we're all talking to each other and we get that done. So I'm not going to tell you what to do, but we'll make sure it works for the local campaign. And I hope that's that. I do completely get the point of we need to be flexible, but we need some sort of structure, and we are trying to make sure that that balance doesn't work. If people feel over the next couple of months it's not working for them, that they need a wee bit more structure, that they need a bit more direction from the centre, then let us know and we will make sure we provide that for you. If we don't know it already, but the chances are we'll have picked up on it. So I hope that kind of answer a lot of your questions. If it doesn't, we can speak at the end and make sure we go through that a lot better. Tony.
Joanne, could you perhaps say something about the kind of information that is available on independence itself? I've spoken to quite a few activists over the past weeks who would probably feel more comfortable having even the most basic facts and stats on independence, because unless the activists are comfortable with the information, they're not going to be able to engage in the debate on independence, whether it's at the doorstep or anything else. Could you say something about what kind of information is already available out there and what kind of information will be developed over the coming months? And can I, just before you answer that, make a very, very quick comment about what you've already said about communities. I think that the key word in this campaign is not politics or politicians, it's community. Community is the most important word in this campaign, and I think after tonight we should really be going back to our wards or whatever kind of campaign structures we will have and identify key community people in our areas. Business Scotland, voluntary sector, Civic Scotland, churches, anyone who's big in the community, because these are the people who will win independence at the end of the day. These are the people who will draw the undecided voters, and these are the people that if we manage to convince, they will convince the rest of the population and bring people in. So I think this is what we have to focus on, identifying these key people in our communities and drawing them into our campaign.
Thanks, Tony. There will be material that comes from Yes on a variety of issues, and we'll build up that as the teams build up. So, for example, what has came out this week is a briefing paper on Europe to deal specifically with the issue of the European question that's, as somebody said, been rather topical in the past couple of weeks. So anybody that's looking for a reaction to that and how to debate that issue, the materials up on the website. We've also got material up on the website about the how can we afford it, what would it look like. That will then come into lots of different briefing packs, so you multiply the one that we've done to Europe to everything else that people are asking questions about. One of the areas I spoke about during the presentation was this part of the website that allows people to input the questions that they have. So we've obviously been looking at them, seeing what are the main questions that are coming out, what are people asking the most about, and we will adapt detailed briefing papers to support people have that debate. So you will see others following on from Europe. That was the rather most obvious one that people were looking for, but you'll see others coming from the questions that are detailed on the website to go through all those, rather common questions that people are coming out. So most of that you should be able to answer from what's on the website. If you're looking for that in paper form, Yes Scotland just produced a leaflet in the past couple of weeks that has some of that key facts on it. Again, we can make that available to people if they haven't got it already. So between the website and the leaflets and the further briefings to come, but we are very, very confident that we will be able to provide people with all the information that they need. The one thing I would say though, if people, and I've heard this a lot from experienced volunteers, I'm a bit anxious about going camping because I'm not sure where we're going to get our driving licence from under independence, or I'm not very sure how many jobs we'll have in HMRC or something. All the activists that I've ever known, cross-party, I will guarantee you will have strapped a door and you could not, chapter and verse, have read your party's manifesto out to people on the doorstep. What you knew was where that party was coming from, what their vision was, and then if you had a question that you couldn't answer, you took it back to someone else within your party and you made sure that individual on the door got the answer to that question. And it's never stopped activists campaigning before for what they believe in, but for some reason we're a wee bit feared to take that forward. I don't know whether it's because it means so much to us or whatever, but if we provide the information that you need on the doorsteps, if there's other issues that come up, get back in touch with us and we will ensure that that individual that you've met has that dealt with. But please, get out and support the campaign rather than waiting for us to be able to answer the million potential questions that might come up. We will provide you with the basics and the detailed material if you're going to speak to a specific sector. Just get out and speak to people as well. So we'll get that combination for you and get all that information out. Colin.
Thank you. Shirley, you mentioned some exceptionally bright people in Edinburgh. Too that to be my cue. I would say the advisory board's full of exceptionally bright people, but this meeting reminds me, I don't know how many people were at the inaugural meeting of the Scottish Independence Convention at the Dynamic Earth in 2005. Put up your hands if you were there. But there's only 3 of us. But in that case, it's fantastic because there's a lot more people here, and there was 500 people at that meeting, so we're well on our way. I wanted to just say a couple of quick things. First of all, remember Harold Wilson said that a week is a long time in politics, didn't he? And I was struck by it's 2 years to go. 2 years to go to the referendum. So let me put this to you, if a week is a long time in politics, 2 years is a blink of an eye. Because it's 2 years since the Tories were elected. With 2 years of a Tory government already. And in a way that shows you how little time we have, not how much time. And I think what's great about tonight is we're getting down to brass tacks, we're getting down to hard, serious work. You roll up the sleeves and you persuade our fellow Scots of the case, the potent, attractive, vibrant case that's in front of us. And I wanted to say a couple of things very briefly. First of all, on behalf of the Scottish Socialist Party, I want to thank every single one of you, everybody that's been in the Yes Scotland campaign and every meeting I've been at, the length and breadth of the country, the launch, the SNP conference a couple of weeks ago. The SSP was given a very, very warm reception. I'm grateful to you for that. And I hope that you found that the SSP activists that you've come across have been equally warm, accommodating and sharing the vision that we have together. One thing I just wanted to say yesterday, and this probably illustrates, in this journey of the next 2 years, we're in for a number of surprises, a number of very, very pleasant surprises. I went yesterday, myself and Christine Graham were invited to the Prison Officers Association Scotland annual union conference in Peebles, and we debated with, what's his name, Councillor Rose in Edinburgh, and Lewis MacDonald for the Labour Party. And that union conference of prison officers in Scotland had a motion in front of them, and the motion read that Scottish prison officers believe that their best interests will be served by remaining part of the United Kingdom. That was the motion. Christine and I spoke, obviously in opposition to the motion. There was 100 delegates at that conference. 1 person supported the motion. Abstentions and 94 other people, 95 other people voted for it. I think that's an extraordinary result. I would never put the prison officers at the forefront of the trade unions in this movement, but as far as I know, they're the first in this country that's overwhelmingly endorsed independence, and I think that's terrific news. It's fantastic news for this campaign, and we're going to have a lot of very pleasant, fantastic surprises like that in the next couple of years. And I would just leave you with the words of Martin Luther King, who I'm sure everybody in this room would celebrate as one of their own. And Martin Luther King said, keep your eyes on the prize. Over the next 2 years, there'll be many twists and turns in this campaign. But keep your eyes on the prize, because we're not only changing history, we are changing the world in this campaign. And it's a fantastic piece of things to be part of. And I'm delighted to be here with you. Thank you very much.
wrap things up. Although, as I said, myself, Stan Blackley and Ian Dommett will be around to speak to people afterwards if people have other questions which we haven't raised. But we'll try and wrap it up with a few more questions.
I suppose it's following on a few of the strands that have come out tonight. I mean, you're right, the absolute best differentiator is that this is a movement by the people, for the people, and it's not actually, it's apolitical, it's across all parties and communities. I do think that the campaign has a challenge, though, in differentiating itself from the SNP, and I personally, despite being an SNP member, think it is totally vital that so many other political parties are involved, and I include the Labour Party in Scotland, and that's totally vital. So going back to the media point, I almost think that there's a platform when there's debates for both YesScotland and the SNP to get that differentiation, because it's going to be very important. I had a conversation with a lady the other day who said, I will vote no because I don't like Alex Salmond. And I said, well, what's it got to do with Alex Salmond? This isn't a vote about that. And I just think to get that message across at every level of society will be a challenge, especially against the kind of typical media.
No, it's a very valid point. You'll notice during the presentation at all, you know, I never mentioned the SNP. It's not about the SNP for next year. It's not about any of the political parties at all. As Colin absolutely rightly said, you know, if we split on party lines on that, we will lose. And that is the main difference between us and the campaign. There is a wide support for independence in this country that has not and will not vote SNP. And I think, I hope, that the SNP know that as well as other political parties. We are very, very thankful for the amount of grassroots work that's already went on. Trade Unions for Independence was not set up by YesScotland, set themselves up. Women for Independence was not set up centrally. That was a grassroots campaign from women across the political parties that set that up themselves, and there's other examples through different sectors. So, you know, this is a genuinely led, community-led campaign, and we are trying, when we deal with traditional media in particular, to make sure that Women for Independence actually get an opportunity to put people forward. So if we get a media bid in from somebody, that we actually say, well, no, have you thought about speaking to somebody in the different areas? Another key conference that's coming up is Labour for Independence. We didn't set up Labour for Independence, that set itself up. You know, had a brilliant group of folk that were at the rally in March recently. Liberal Democrats are also coming out in support. You know, we even have a few Tories, strange but true. But it's absolutely exceptionally important that we support anyone who supports independence, regardless of where they're on. So, I mean, we'll be at the Labour for Independence conference in a couple of weeks' time. The details for that is on our website if there's anybody who wants to go along to that as well. But this is not about any one political party. It certainly isn't about one politician. And a very, very key message for us to get across is 2014 is where you decide how Scotland is governed. 2016, you decide who it's governed by. And those are two entirely separate dates.
Sorry for interrupting, but Manu talked about a buzzword for the campaign, and he said community. Can I just suggest it might be identity rather than community? Because it really is all about identity. And you can be in a community and not have an identity. And it's a celebration of all these different identities that we're on about.
Well, certainly one of the things that we're trying to do is pull people together. Whatever way they identify themselves into a group in society, we're there to campaign for it. So however people want to describe themselves, talk about themselves, we're there to talk to them and to listen to them. So, yeah, absolutely fair point. There was somebody over there that had a hand up. Yes?
Yeah, you're talking about different groups. Are YesScotland watching who's using their name? Because there's a Facebook group set up. It only had like about 2 people supporting it, but it was the most rampant, obnoxious, fairly racist, but it had all the YesScotland badging, anyone just coming across it. And I mean, we can complain as Facebook users up, because there's actually a long running group on Facebook called Yes for Independence, that, you know, now we were complaining, we actually wondered if it was a kind of black box, because it's that far out, you know. And Yes Scotland watching who's using their identity. We can complain that it was racist,
yeah,
and it,
if there's anything ever like that people feel is either a spoof of Yes Scotland or using Yes Scotland brand in a way that's damaging to our brand, then please do let us know about it. There are a number of Facebook groups that aren't associated to Yes Scotland, and you'll never see any connection to them on our website, so I can only ask that people let us be informed as quickly as possible about that and deal with it. But I mean, anybody can download a Yes Scotland logo and make mischief with it, and that is just one of the challenges of having particularly a community-based campaign. You know, I mean, our logo is downloadable from our website to help our volunteers provide local leaflets that people were asking for later. In some cases, that will be misused, and we just have to deal with that as quickly as possible and make sure that from our website you know that our campaigning etiquette is entirely positive. And that. But if anybody has any issues like that that we know about, then please do let us know in our digital team. We do check up on these things and do make sure that they're following all the key messages on Facebook and Twitter or on the web. But the more information we feed into that, the better. So feed it in just in case we don't know about it already. Question then?
Sure. This lady here has quite had up for many minutes. I just got longer arms.
Got longer arms, sorry. I'll take that one question then I'll come back to you. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. And that's with my new glasses on, so that's for doing.
Just emphasising earlier the importance of this not just being seen as an SNP campaign.
Yep.
On November the 24th, there will be a meeting in Glasgow, the Radical Independence Convention. Now, that's Socialist Party and non-party together who are very much in support of independence. That's the one thing it will bring. You know, different people have different attitudes to different people, but I think one of the important things it will be doing is bringing people from outside of Scotland, people from Quebec, people from the Basque Country, from Palestine, from Greece, and from France. It's important. You know, the unionists are going to all of these. They're people in the EU, and it's important this message we get from Bernadette to Taliesin to Ireland. On the way out, anybody's inside leaflets of that, but that's just an example of another group that will be trying to campaign for independence.
Okay, thank you. The details for that conference are also on the Yes Scotland website, and Stan has been in discussions with a lot of the organisers for that to make sure that message goes out as widely as possible. We've had quite a good response rate from that on the website. But yes, feel free, and leaflets out. The lady that I didn't see over there, I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm so small. Actually, most people have covered bits of what I was going to say. One was about SNP that most people I speak to say they're going to vote no because they don't want SNP to run Scotland. They don't realise, right? So obviously the message doesn't get out to people like the right message about how it's going to be. And I don't know if it's all depends so much on the internet. Because a lot of people didn't have internet or they didn't go on Facebook. And if they didn't go on Facebook and go to Yes or whatever, and then on the Yes campaign on the internet, everybody's feeling the pictures of the convicted day. It's all people that agree with independence. Whereas the leaflets, and you're saying earlier that people can make up their own leaflets. And what I meant was leaflets with facts that can actually give out so that people that haven't got the internet or only get the information from the paper or the TV can see another point of view from the leaflets with the facts on them, know what we all think. It could be like that factual things of what it is at the moment, what we're paying in, what we're getting back, actual facts of things. And then I think maybe more people would get involved and we'll know more about it.
No, you're totally, I mean, the digital campaign is important, but it is only one small strand of the campaign, and digital media is not going to win us independence. It's talking to people as much. So that's why the leaflets that are happening on Saturday are important. That's why when the database is launched in the new year, we can get out and identify voters, and that's so important as well. So this campaign will be won in your communities, whether that's online or offline. It needs to be both. So you'll have that material that allows us. Now, you can localise the leaflets to make sure that people can respond to local needs, but we will absolutely make sure that you have national leaflets that will provide you with the information that you require for that.
When would you be able to get them?
Well, there are leaflets that are available. They're the ones that will be starting to give out on Saturday. If people have other ways of distributing leaflets, we'll make sure that we get them. There will be leaflets that will be available if people run events. So the leaflets are there, they've been distributed, they'll be distributed through different political parties that might want to use it in their different areas, and then we will send that information out to people so that they can get involved in getting that material out. So once we distributed it to the lead volunteers, they can then get other people involved in that and it can trickle down. So the leaflets have been made, they're being distributed to local activists, and then once they publicise how they're going out, we can let everybody know about that. I'll take a couple of other questions and I really will have to try and wrap this up. The gentleman standing at the back.
It's just a comment on the agenda. I think it's incredibly important for our fellow citizens to hear others from out of the country saying how they've dealt with certain issues, for instance, last country, capitalism, whatever. I think it's incredibly important to get some bigwigs, political bigwigs and others from out of Scotland to actually give an opinion from outside that's wanting the campaign, because it is bad enough here in the room people put you down. It's great when you hear somebody from elsewhere telling how good you are and what the potential is for us. I just wonder if there's any plans to bring anybody from outside to lead the campaign.
We will be using, whether it's international politicians, academics and so that to bring that expertise in, and that's already being fed into the campaign to make sure it's informing our messaging and the way we campaign. So anything that's been done abroad we are learning from, and if there's aspects like conferences that are coming up where we can use those individuals, we do that too. Gentleman there, and that's going to be my last question.
I work for an organisation called SAMH, which is a mental health organisation, and basically I'm dealing with people that are, the austerity cuts are actually hitting them almost on a daily basis. What I'm thinking is a scope for something like a social work and care sector for independence movement as well.
That sounds like a very good idea, and if you hadn't had a form, we're going to make sure you do so that you can put that down and we don't lose that. So, yes. A couple more slides and then I promise we will let you go. And that's simply our contact details. As a variety of people said, there's a great turnout tonight. We've had a lot of good questions to try and get involved. This is very much the beginning of it rather than the start. So hopefully you now have some enthusiasm to go out and campaign if you didn't have it already. You've met other people who are willing to go out and campaign. Our challenge now is to get you to actually go out and campaign rather than, well, we've had a nice chat about independence and then we're way home to have our dinner. So, there is a campaign already starting on Saturday at the Mount for people that can attend that. Please do so. We are looking for suggested names for volunteers throughout the whole city so we can start developing your campaign strategies. I know people are doing things already, so feel free to keep doing them. You don't need to wait till you see the strategy. Get out and do as much as possible, but we need to have that structure and coordination engaged. So if people are interested in taking part in that, please do make yourself available at the end and we'll take your details for that. If there are questions which we haven't managed to get through tonight or points that come up to you at 3 o'clock in the morning that you thought, I wish I'd asked, get in touch with us at info@YesScotland.net and we will try and answer them as quickly as possible after tonight. It has been a fantastic turnout tonight. Congratulations, you have been the largest one so far. You have beat Falkirk, that was at 170, so well done. My big but is one of the things that the lady said in there, that it is fantastic to come and preach to the converted. It's fantastic to have a home audience where we can all sit and agree that independence is a good thing. However, this is very much the start and we need to go out and talk to everybody else in Edinburgh to persuade them of that as well. So anybody that's interested in getting further involved, make sure we've got your details and you will find out about the campaign, and if you want to take that further and become one of the lead volunteers, then let us know that and we will get in touch with you even quicker. But thank you very much for attending tonight, and I hope to see you all sometime soon on a street corner somewhere with some leaflets in your hand campaigning for independence. Thank you.